Good morning, church. Thank you for joining us for our deep dive. Today we're in John chapter 6, verses 60 through 66. Verse 66 says this. It says that at this point, many disciples turned away and deserted him. It's a real turning point in the book of John because at this point, the crowds following Jesus were getting larger and larger. And why not? His fame was spreading throughout the land as he healed people, and that word went out. As he did other miracles, people did that, and more people were coming around him, and the whisper was, is he the Messiah? Is he the Messiah? Is he the Messiah? And these huge crowds were growing. In the section that Derek covered on Friday, verses 20 through 59 of John 6, man, that is a deep theological dump that Jesus goes through. And if you read it, it has a lot of truth in it. And when Jesus presents this, and it continues then in verse 60 to 65, the people who were following Jesus were kind of taken back by it. See, they weren't wanting a deep connection to Christ. They wanted a political king. And yet Jesus was talking about the atonement, how it was based not on them, but based on God. He was talking about what it meant to follow him, and that wasn't very palatable to them. So many of them just decided, you know what? That wasn't what we're looking for, and they walked away. See, what they were looking for is that king. They were looking for a person who would be a David that would throw Rome out. That would return them to the worldwide prominence that they have, that would give them security and, hey, give them free fish and bread. That's what they were wanting. And when they saw this was a spiritual kingdom, this was a spiritual connection that Christ was talking about, many turned their back and walked away. Now, I think so many times we look at this passage or we look at the Old Testament and we almost say, stupid Israelites. And yet, let's be honest. Don't we sometimes do the same things? Did they want to follow God for what God could give them? And when they realized that what they were hoping to get, they weren't going to get, they were ready to walk away. And see, I think sometimes we look at following Christ as if we follow God, we follow Christ, we get a bubble around our life. If we do that, God will give us a loving, faithful spouse. He will give us obedient kids. He will give us a good job. He'll give us financial, prosperity. He'll give us health. In other words, he'll create this bubble around us. And if you really look at Scripture, that isn't true. See, in a fallen world, sin happens. And things happen, good things happen to bad people, bad things happen to good people, and vice versa. We're in a fallen world. And because of that, we have to understand that coming to know Christ wasn't where God removes us from the consequences of the world and time we live. It was just God will walk with us through the consequences and the world and time that we're in. And he wants us to be connected to him. As Rick Warren said, this life is just boot camp for eternity. That it's preparing us to be with God forever. So here's my question. Do you find yourself falling in sometimes to say, God, I'm going to serve you, but it's like, if I do, I expect this back? Or you're like David to say, God, if you slay me, I will worship you. In other words, this is the connection to say, God, I know you, I love you, I want to be with you forever. And in this life, the most important thing is that I connect to you, and I know you, and I prepare myself to be with you forever.